Active Investor here, bringing you another independent analysis. This time we're taking a look at ticker symbol NETE, that's Net Element Incorporated. Been a while since we've done a Net Element video, but things are getting a little bit more interesting once again. Net Element had a great day today, and though it lost half the gains from the high today, still up on the close a little over 20% at 20.35%. So still a wonderful day for Net Element, especially considering the fact that it's been in a downtrend since 8/15, so that would be July 15th. And now it's pushing back up out of there. So July 15th, it really sold off pretty hard. It was trading at a range between about 215 and 230 for quite a while before that happened. Then they had a massive red candle bringing it all the way down to $1.75, where it bounced off for a little bit, hanged out there for a day or two, and then it was just staircase mode, falling all the way back down, breaking levels of support daily, and really just consolidating all the way down at about $1. And then pushing its way back up to about $1.10, where it was hanging out for a while before this recent uptrend. And you can see that reflected right here on the chart. By the way, the chart that we're looking at in this video is a 15-minute chart. So each candlestick on this chart is going to be representing 15 minutes of trading. So keep that in mind as we discuss the rest of the details here. I'll have a few areas to take a look at. Those are our pivot points. First, we have 175. That's this top line. Then we have these two lines here. That's going to be a little channel. 154 and 144. Both of these are important areas, and not one of those was a defined support or resistance line. Rather, both kind of, well, as I said, it is a channel, so both have acted as support or resistance, and the price does like the channel between there. Moving back down, we have $1.25 here on the bottom, and then $1.10 at the very bottom pivot point. So you can see basically right now, even though this is the channel that we're looking at, 154 and 144, we did downtrend below that, but interestingly enough, we bounced right off that 50-period moving average, came down and tested it here, and here, and here, and here a few times, and then just barely missed it here. Obviously, this didn't hit all the way, but it was right on the money. It's close enough to that 50 SMA account. And then this one actually almost bounced off. The open was up here, and then the close was down here. So it could have bounced off again, but we didn't have enough time in the day to really test that out. Market ended, and that was that. So we have a bearish cross that occurred here when the 20 average crossed over our 10 average. Boom. Cross there, bearish, but we're still above the 50-period average, which is good. We don't want the candles to dip below, but if they do, we'll probably find support at $1.25. I wouldn't like to see that, though, since then we really would be at a very slight gain on the day, probably about 10% or so from the open, and we were at the height of the day at about 50% increase, if I recall correctly. I do remember in this range it was up about 40% or so, so up here at the height of the day, probably about 50%. So it is a shame that we didn't close up 50%, but we did close up 20%. And for those of you that didn't know, there was some news for Net Element regarding a publishing that it had in the Florida Business Journal, giving it a shout out for being one of the fastest growing technology companies. So pretty cool there. And as you can see, that was a very bullish article, and a lot of buying pressure came in, set this thing way up. The problem is the volume. Look at the volume, these blue bars down here. Open, a ton of volume. We had this massive candle. But it's actually a pretty bearish candle for a bullish candle. What I mean by that is the fact that we have this huge wick on top. Our candle closed all the way down here, almost halfway in the candle. It would have been much nicer if we closed somewhere up here. So I would have liked to have seen this candle been more like this. And really, if it got denied at this resistance level and closed there, that would have been very ideal. We would have had a little wick, and we would have had a close at an optimal area where we could potentially have a breakout. That's not what happened. It did close down here. A little bit better than closing on support since it closed a little bit up, so a little bit more bullish, but still not the best candle. But it could have been worse. You know, it could have looked more like this even, where it closed even down further to the bottom of the candle, so that wasn't the case at least. But look at this. Each candle on this 15-minute chart wasn't really that bullish. Everything closing about towards the middle and really not giving enough buying pressure to push back up. We had a little pop here, but it wasn't enough. And then after that pop, this thing was just making lower highs all day, lower highs, and then eventually falling off to that close. So not good. And of course, as we mentioned already, the volume was drifting off pretty hard from the open there. We had a ton of volume there, and then it came back a little bit here. And then really, it didn't really push back up at all. I'm surprised it even had this little increase here, considering the volume was still drifting away in that area. And then here we had this volume on this bearish candle, which really sent this thing down, breaking levels of support. If we had more volume on this doji or this green candle, we may have pushed back up to support, but we had most of the volume on the latter part of the day on these red candles, so that was pretty ugly to see. RSI also hanging out oversold the entire time, so it was bearish there on the RSI. As you can see, when we were overbought in this area, that's when we were running up in price. Rather, I should highlight this whole area. That's when we were running up in price. When we were oversold down here, that's when we were selling off up here. So we don't want to hang out oversold. End of the day, it was trying to push back up, but wasn't quite making it. And keep in mind, even when this RSI does break above the 20 line, it's still not going to be bearish until we break above the 80 line and we get back into the overbought area. That's when we can see the price run like we saw in this area here. So keep that in mind as we watch Net Element the rest of the week. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe if you're not already, and stay tuned for more videos like this in the future. Hope to see you there.